Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back another video from 6. I'm hoping it's going to be on more consistent uploads. I missed the content, I missed the videos, but we got a Naruto one. Boom. Rank the Hokage, sure, why not? Interested to see where he puts them. I don't know how he's ranking them. If it's in strength, then Naruto's at the top. Uh, and Minato is pretty much up there. Um, the others, I feel like Tsunade's at the bottom, and then you just gotta argue with the other three because you got Hashirama, Tobirama, and who was the fourth? Can't remember his name, but pretty beastly. I've watched some interesting videos going over how strong he was. Like, even though we didn't get to see many feats, but we didn't get to see many feats with Tobirama, Hashirama anyway, either, do we? But anyway, not for me babbling. Let's get into this.
This is by no means a brand new topic or anything. I'm pretty sure you could find a video like this ranking the Hokage in terms of strength on any Naruto YouTuber's channel.
Oh, I wonder if this includes... Oh, because if it includes Naruto, then it's got to include Kakashi, doesn't it?
But that's except mine.
Hiruzen! That was his name, Hiruzen.
I did this video around 3 years ago, and I took it off my channel pretty quickly since I didn't agree with it.
Oh.
But now that my thoughts on the topic are pretty finalized, I think it's a good time to redo it. I do have a guest with me. He's a new guy to this channel. His name is Sage, and he's probably the best
Sage of Thick Calves. Nice.
upcoming Naruto YouTuber. Before we get started with the ranking, I'd just like to ask if you could leave a like on the video and subscribe to his channel. Since I already hit 100k, so I'm fine as well.
Nice.
So just give all
Oh
the
yeah,
stuff
there
to
we go.
Sage. But with that out of the way, for our first placement, we're just gonna place Shikamaru right here. Do you want to start talking about why Shikamaru is so low?
Oh, we're doing Boruto as well. That really threw me then. Oh my god, that really threw me. I was like, what are you going on about?
On this list?
But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so Shikamaru is kind of difficult to cover because we don't have a ton of information on him as Hokage or like as I guess an interim Hokage. If you go off of the manga, right? What we know is he's fast enough to react to somebody like Delta, who is obviously insanely fast and powerful.
Yeah,
so
very
that puts
powerful.
him in a really high speed tier above a lot of the characters above him. We also know he's able to bind somebody like, the four Kage four of the five Kage in the novels. We also know he's able to bind Kinshiki temporarily. But the problem is he doesn't have really any attack potency feats in the manga. So like the only thing that we really have to go off of is in the novels when he's unable to snap a tree in half with his Shadow Strangle. So
Oh, okay.
we have a guy who's really fast, who has really good binding power,
Very smart.
but has basically no attack potency. So it's really hard to justify putting him any higher than this because like even some of the lower members on this list, like let's say Tsunade, just to pull a name out of the hat. What happens? He binds her, right? She can't move, but he's unable to actually do any damage
to her,
Eventually
right,
his
yeah.
chakra runs out because that's another thing. He doesn't have
I'd argue that Tsunade would be able to break out of the shadow possession. Just saying.
crazy amounts of chakra. He outright talks about like how he's out of shape in the novels.
Because we see people struggle against it. And what's Tsunade's thing? She's really freaking strong.
So eventually it runs out and then she's free and then he's fatigued so she can just punch his head off. Like there's just like not a lot.
Yeah, Shikamaru is
for
definitely
him
right
to
at the
do
bottom. I
here.
would agree with
Like,
that. Okay.
I love Shikamaru, but
Wow,
like
that really
he's
threw me.
not Batman. He doesn't have a bunch of gadgets or anything to help him out. It's like his brain and no attack potency. So he has to be this low. I don't really see any justification for him being any higher. Do you have anything else to add to here? Or to
Yeah,
add here?
when it comes to the other Hokage and you put him up against Shikamaru, people like Tobirama and Minato, obviously they can just teleport out. Like there's no physical restraint on FTG. As long as they can use their head, seemingly anyway, they can activate that jutsu.
Yeah, it doesn't
They
seem
can just
to
teleport out
be...
of shadow possession.
Yeah, you don't need to be casting hand signs, do you, to use the flying Raijin?
And then when it comes to like Hashirama, he's sort of in the same boat as Tsunade, where Shikamaru is just simply not going to outlast him because of that massive reserve of chakra.
I would argue that all the Hokage have the potential to break out of shadow possession.
And obviously Naruto is just breaking out anyway. Like even if you want to use the novel, I've been against just
Yeah.
the novel in pretty much every video I've made that has to pertain to them. But even if you do use the novel, Naruto is the one who breaks out in that continuity anyway. So I mean, the only one you could really even try to have a contentious battle with is Hiruzen, because maybe Hiruzen doesn't have crazy levels of stamina, crazy levels of chakra. But that's not getting Shikamaru above anywhere above where he's at right now.
Yeah. Well, that's also assuming that he hasn't already like summoned Enma too. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
if they're that
Yeah.
like into the fight, like he could have already summoned Enma, and then Enma can just like extend as a staff and just knock him out. Kakashi's got the omnidirectional Shinden, like all these different things. So yeah, I love Shikamaru, but he can't be any higher on this list in my opinion.
It's
yeah.
fair.
So
Yeah.
we just move right on to number 7, that being Tsunade. Tsunade is obviously extremely impressive, and when you rank the Hokage, it's sort of like ranking the richest billionaires and how rich they are.
Yeah.
Everyone here is extreme.
They're great. They are great. But Tsunade doesn't have a lot of stuff going on for herself. Like, probably, I reckon she could definitely kill any of the Hokage with one hit, I reckon. But it's whether she can get that hit in, and I don't think she can on any of them. Other than Shikamaru, you know? She's got no other techniques going on.
Powerful. Everyone here is extremely impressive. Tsunade is just on the lesser end of the impressive people. She's a Sanin. Obviously, the Sanin are hyped up
Legendary.
throughout the entire franchise. And, extremely powerful. But like, do you really want to compare Tsunade to someone like Sage Jiraiya? Like Jiraiya, when he enters Sage mode, he says, "Hey, I've gone beyond the realm of being a Sanin now." And obviously Tsunade was not very effective in defending the village against pain. That's something
Yeah,
horrible to happen to
she
your
didn't
village.
really do
When you're the
much.
Hokage, you're supposed to be the protector of it. Tsunade is just never put in a good position where she can show off that she's stronger than anyone else
Yeah, no.
that's currently on this list. Obviously, when she was put up against Madara, she was getting completely ragdolled by him. So
I mean, she did manage to break through the Susanoo at one point, but yeah, she does get thrown about.
she's not
Yeah.
going up there with someone like Hashirama. And you can even argue in the fight with Madara that she's like mental amp the entire time because of the will of fire and what she needs to do to protect the world as Hokage. So Tsunade, my opinion, just not that impressive. But obviously she's got healing, things like that. But that's why I have her at number 7.
Yeah,
If
but
you have anything to say about Tsunade, you can go ahead. I'm pretty much done.
Yeah, it's just like she's super strong. I think if she, punches any of these guys, like she should be able to do some pretty good damage until we get to like, the high tiers on this list.
I don't think it matters personally. I feel like if she gets a full-on hit on any of them, I feel like Tsunade could take them out. But she isn't getting that hit in.
But how is she going to tag most of them? Like Tobirama and Minato both have the reaction speed to just FTG out of it. I would argue Hiruzen also just has the reaction speed
Yeah,
to
I
move
think
out
he's
of the
faster.
way, and he's got an arsenal that can keep her at bay. Like people don't think about that. He's not going to have to engage her in a close range combat fight. We also have somebody like Naruto, Kakashi. Like these guys, they all should have the reaction and combat speed to just like
Just dodge.
stay away from her.
Dodge.
And people like point to the Madara fight and try to hype it up more so than it needs to be. Like Madara literally sits down and says, "Would you like for my wood clones to use Susanoo?" Like
Or not, like, it gives him the option. He's like, he knows he's got the fight.
he's literally like toying with them. So like he's just there's no relativity there in my opinion. So even though she's incredibly strong, like there's just nothing she can do to tag any of these guys, let alone do any damage to the top tiers. So yeah, while I do have her above Shikamaru because he would just exhaust his chakra and then not be able to harm her, she doesn't have really an argument for being above the other guys on this list.
One thing I forgot to say about Tsunade that I never really talked about this. Tsunade is not ever highlighted to be particularly fast. I mean, when she's watching KCM Naruto versus the Raikage, she's like, wow, like Naruto can keep up with the Raikage. Like that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, but the Raikage is, like, built up to be one of the fastest people. Like, isn't that meant to be one of his things?
And then obviously Madara's like, hey, she's not as fast as the Raikage, but she's really strong. And Tsunade just doesn't have any speed feats that would lead you to believe she's super fast or anything like that.
Totally agree.
Even in when they're all summoning, um, in the war arc, not in the war arc. Oh my god, I can't believe I just said that. When they're all summoning, when they're all summoning in part one, her
In the
Jiraiya
three-way
and,
fight, yeah.
Orochimaru, she's like matching the summoning speed of Abuto and Jiraiya, who's nerfed from that chakra suppression drug or whatever. Like Tsunade, to me anyway, she's just never been.
It's quite slow.
She's never shown that she's like a
Yeah.
fast character, like a super fast character.
She's a tank.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
enough yapping about her. I mean, she's number 7. Boom. Tobirama, you can take the lead on this guy.
Yeah. So
Ooh. Interesting. Interesting. I thought it would have been Hiruzen next. But okay.
I think Tobirama is one of the most contentious characters in the entire series, especially when it comes to power scaling, because some people have him on this absurd god tier of like above Jubito, and then some people have him in like this dog water, mud puddle level, like where he's like not able to do anything.
Yeah, a lot of people go, yeah, he invented all these jutsu, but he doesn't do anything with them. And then other people are like, yeah, but he got killed by he got killed off by that group of people at that one time in that backstory bit that we heard. Fodder. It's like,
You can't
And he's
beat
really-
Kisame.
Yeah, exactly.
That's too
So-
far.
No, it's crazy. So he's either being glazed or he's being dunked on. I will say here recently, I think the power scaling community, like the pendulum, has swung really far in like the hyping Tobirama direction. And so what I'm gonna spend this section of the video doing is explaining why he's really impressive, but also not as impressive as a lot of people make him out to be for a couple
Okay.
of reasons. So obviously he's one of the smartest characters in the series. I mean, he developed a ton of jutsu. He's the reason for basically like the current ninja system in Konoha. Like he's super smart, and he's also got just a wide range of abilities, whether it be his water style that's said to be unparalleled, or like Edo Tensei and tandem paper bombs and FTG, all these crazy things. So he is in the top tiers for sure, and he's able to move on pace with a lot of really powerful characters. But I think where a lot of his top end scaling comes from is from a disingenuous place, and it comes from 2 feats really. The first one is he's able to tag Jubito with an FTG seal and hit him with I think 5 tandem paper bomb, or 5 paper bombs from the tandem paper bomb jutsu. But what people forget here
yeah, it's Edo Tensei.
is his left hand, whenever you see him falling away after Jubito literally blitzes him and cuts him in half, is right on the right side of Obito's back. Whenever we see in a bit, later on in I think it's that chapter, maybe the next one, we see him talk about how he marked Jubito, and it literally shows the marking on the right side of Jubito's back. So what that means is that more likely than not, as he was getting ran through, he literally takes his left hand, moves it maybe a couple inches, and places the FTG seal on his back. So that implies 0 physical relativity, because Jubito covered a massively greater amount of distance, but some level of reaction speed, which is impressive. Now, then we have the actual paper bombs that are put on him. Six pointed this out to me. I didn't realize this. I had a theory about it, but didn't realize this was actually a thing. Later on, Tobirama reaches inside of his chest, as an Edo Tensei, and pulls paper bombs out of his chest. So what this means, and then he uses them for the tandem paper bombs. So what this literally means is that he has paper bombs prepped inside of himself as an Edo Tensei, which makes sense because the Edo Tensei and the tandem paper bombs were created to work.
They work
in
perfectly
tandem
together,
with
yeah.
one another. So he has these paper bombs prepped inside of his body already, which means whenever Jubito blitzed and ran through his body, those just stuck to him. That's just how that works. So people use this to try to get him massively above Jubito, and they're like, oh, he placed all 5 of these tags on him individually. It's no, that's not what happened. He ran through and they just stuck to him, because that's how that works. So that's the first one. The second one is this super disingenuous exploding Truth Seeker Orb feat that people use to say he just outright blitzed Minato. Now,
Real quick,
this is...
before you get into that.
Go ahead.
A common counter to the paper bombs being in Tobirama's body is that, He ran through it with a Truth Seeker orb, so the paper bombs would have been erased. You can literally see on the panel where Tobirama gets ran through and Hashirama.
Mm-hmm.
There is debris from the Edo Tensei in the air. And it's
Yep.
not Hashirama's debris because the Hashirama that's there is not a Hashirama Edo thing. It's a wood clone.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not, there's no paper debris coming off of that Hashirama. So all of that debris that's in the air, that's Tobirama's debris. So the TSO more so probably exploded his body rather than just outright erasing it. And we see a similar thing happen whenever it comes to Hiruzen. We'll talk about the Hiruzen feat later. But whenever he hits Hiruzen's arm with the True Seeker orb, there's a bunch of paper that flies out. You know, just like what you would expect. So I wanted to say that really quickly. I knew there was gonna be like a comment. But keep going.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, because people are going to be, there are a lot of Tobirama defenders, which is fine. He's your guy. But we're just explaining why these things may not be as crazy as people hype them up.
Yeah, it's not what you thought. Because when you click, it's with the manga, you just go through it and you're dead excited. It's like, you gotta sometimes just like go back and have a closer look, and it's like, little details. Like I said, the wood clone is just like torn apart. There's no flickering of the paper from the Edo Tensei kind of thing, but that curve's got all the flickery paper bits.
To be. So that's the first one. The second one is, like I said, this exploding True Seeker orb that Minato seems to be, unable or maybe like slow to be able to grab and teleport away. And then we see like as he's like reaching for it, he's like, I gotta teleport this thing away. We then see a hand pop into frame and grab it. It's Tobirama's hand, and then he teleports over to Ujubito. And in one of the coldest moments in the series, he goes, "You can have this back," and then it like blows up. So it's a super cool moment. It's a shadow clone, and so like we don't know a couple different things here. Number one, we don't know where the shadow clone was before this, so we're not sure how much distance it covered. Number two, we know that even if it covered like a good amount of distance, it could have been body flicker. Body flicker is straight up just stated to surpass normal speed, so like that's not an anti-feat for Minato here. Number three, we know Minato is mental nerfed. The data books confirm this. Talks about him being in a daze or a stupor depending on which translation you use, and that doesn't break until later on when he fist bumps Naruto. So he is still in that mental nerf state at this point in time.
Yeah, it's because it's like, oh my god, this is Obito. This is like kid who I thought died when he was younger, and then he's the same person that I fought against, who then nearly killed my kid, and then it's a lot to take in.
And number four, because we don't know if the clone like dashed over there and grabbed it, or if it was just spawned there, because like we know when Naruto summons 1,000 clones, they don't all just like summon on top of one another. They're spread out. You can summon shadow clones essentially wherever you want within, it looks like, a certain range.
I am still thinking about the ranking. I still feel like I'll wait till the Hiruzen bit, because I feel like Hiruzen should have been here, but
So it's very possible that Tobirama just summoned a shadow clone to that exact spot. So like there's not enough here to say definitively that he just like blitzes Minato at this point in time. And even if he did, Minato's mental nerf there is very apparent. So I just wanted to hit on those two things to just kind of say like those are the top end scaling chains that people use to get him above the likes of like Minato, Hiruzen, and some of these other characters, and they're just really disingenuous. So whenever you examine the rest of his feats, I don't think he gets up to that tier, specifically because of something that Hiruzen does that is just far more impressive than the paper bomb thing. And so we'll get into that. But yeah, I can't have him any higher than this, despite how powerful he is, because of those things.
Yeah, one quick last thing about the Minato portion is that Minato's arm is gone. For one, not only is it the arm that would naturally have grabbed the True Seeker orb, his arm is missing, his soul is missing. Everyone knows from Orochimaru, when you lose your limbs like that, you get nerfed. I don't know why no one ever really takes into consideration with Minato. Maybe because he's in KCM. Obviously, there's probably not going to be a KCM level nerf. But, it's a nerf regardless. So you have a bunch of factors working against this just being an outright Tobirama blitzed Minato feat. So I mean, I'm not specifically gonna count it. And there's another thing we're gonna have to bring up whenever we eventually get to talking about Hiruzen, and
Right.
Tobirama's Jubito feat because we're gonna have to compare them. Spoiler alert: Hiruzen is the next person on this list.
Right. Okay. So it is a. Hmm.
But yeah, we're inevitably gonna have to compare them. So just take that into account. Now, for some Tobirama positivity, Tobirama obviously has Edo Tensei. Edo Tensei is extremely powerful jutsu. Not only because it gives you virtually immortal allies to work with, but Tobirama specifically uses the jutsu along with tin and paper bombs on his ally, whoever he summons, uh, in order to just nuke the battlefield. And the jutsu is insanely powerful. You gotta take into consideration.
Oh, it's wild.
Yeah, like the Ten Tails bomb, Biju bomb, did not blow up this DD gate. This DD gate is still standing post Ten Tails Biju bomb, and that's while it was contained. Toby Rama's tandem paper bombs blow this thing to bits. Like it's an actual crazy
Oh, the attack potency is insane. Insane.
Obviously, there's prep time needed for Edo Tensei and whatnot, but the payoff to Toby Rama getting this jutsu off on somebody,
Yeah,
would be
with all
absolutely,
that, it's
like,
just
crazy.
insane.
There's
Yeah.
no way
Yeah.
I could imagine any ninja in the first or second war, or first war, I think is what he participated in. There's no ninja in the first war, aside from maybe Madara and Hashirama, that are surviving that specific jutsu.
No.
Um,
No.
so yeah, he's extremely powerful, and obviously he created FTG, he created the Shadow Clone Jutsu, and just FTG alone can make you really like it can make you really like a bad matchup for most people. Like just having
Yeah.
the ability to teleport can get you out of some of these situations. We even brought
Especially the way Minato uses it, where you just shuriken everywhere and you can just teleport everywhere.
up, one earlier where if Tobirama is fighting Shikamaru, Shikamaru is much faster than Tobirama, or at least he should be according to the novels and whatnot. He literally can't beat him because Tobirama can just teleport out of his most famous jutsu, like the jutsu he's
Yep.
known for. It just won't work on Tobirama. So I mean, there's tons of things to take into consideration when you talk about him, but I think with everything he has going for him, this spot is probably the best one. And like we're
Yep.
gonna continue talking about him on to Hiruzen's placement because there's a lot of comparisons between the two, and obviously since Hiruzen is right above him, we're gonna have to say why Hiruzen is above him.
Yeah, please. Please do. Please.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that's bothering me about this.
Um, when you get to, do you want to start with Hiruzen? Or do you want me to start? I really don't.
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah. I can go ahead and take it.
Go ahead, go ahead.
So I've had Hiruzen over Tobirama for a long time.
Oh,
like,
okay.
I think like the second video or third video I have on my channel is a Hokage ranked video, and this is the placement that I got the most flack for. But the thing is, like, there are not only a ton of like narrative comparisons between the two, whether it be Hiruzen being stated in the data books, in data book 4, I believe, to have surpassed Tobirama in talent from childhood. And like, he lived until he was like 70 years old. So if he surpassed him in talent, and he's training and all these things, like he would have just surpassed him in ability, logically. But even outside of that, we just see all kinds of different narrative and actual feat points that back this up. So the thing I referenced earlier with Jubito running through Tobirama with the just blitzing him, right? We actually get to see Hiruzen have a better reaction feat than that, like in the same scuffle. So
Okay.
Hiruzen is analyzing Jubito's abilities and like comparing it to Oniki's particle style, the TSOs and stuff. And as he's like breaking this down in his mind, he's launching these giant shuriken at him, and Jubito's just like flying through these things. And as he's flying at Hiruzen, he expands one of the True Seeker orbs in like a staff rod type form, and then hits him in the shoulder with it. But like we can see based on these speed lines or these movement lines, that Hiruzen moved his head out of the way of this thing. Now this is more impressive for just two big reasons. Number one, because he's actually able to verifiably cover more distance with his body than Tobirama did the first time around. And number two, he's not reacting to the same level of speed. He's reacting to greater speed because
faster, right.
not only is Jubito flying at him, he's also like firing essentially this rod at him. And if you take his acceleration plus the rod's acceleration, that would mean that the two levels of acceleration add up to be greater than just his regular base travel speed or combat speed. Because like the example I give is if you eliminate, wind resistance and you're driving in a car at 60 miles an hour and you can throw a baseball at 50 miles an hour, and while you're driving in this car, you throw the baseball as hard as you can at 50 miles an hour. Its initial speed is actually 60 miles an hour because it's in the car with you. So then
Okay.
whenever you throw that baseball, it's accelerating at 110 miles an hour because the 50 miles an hour on top of that, makes up that difference. So that's what's going on here. If he's moving
Okay.
at, let's say, just arbitrarily light speed, and even if the
Is that right? Is that right?
TSOs are slower than him and they move at 50% light speed, now the
Just doesn't sound right to me, that mathematics, but I could be wrong.
total acceleration is 150% light speed, if that makes sense. So Hiruzen moves his body further than Tobirama did and reacts to a greater level of speed, which just inherently means he has better physical and mental reaction speed than Tobirama here, which is insane. So that alone, I think, is a good indicator of why he should be above Tobirama. But then you take into consideration all the different statements about him being again above Tobirama or like the strongest Hokage, which we can talk about later why that might get him to like a base Hashirama level, with base Hashirama just blatantly being above Tobirama. So there's a bunch of different things that point to him being above him, and I think that it's just narratively
Gonna do a
consistent.
quick
So can you sort of
Google.
like add your thoughts here?
Yeah, so when you talk about this feat in comparison to Tobirama's feat when he dodges Jubito, if you're one of the people who believes that Tobirama individually placed these paper bombs, not only is that absurd for a couple of reasons. One, if you do think that, then do you think Tobirama placed all these paper bombs individually, had Jubito on the side, then went back into position to get hit by the True Seeker Orb? It just doesn't really make sense if you think of it that way. I mean, realistically, when Tobirama says, "Hey, I marked Jubito the last time we were in contact," maybe it was when Jubito came at him, or maybe it was after he threw the tandem paper bombs before his body erased. He tagged Jubito. Then it's so
Oh,
weird.
right. Yeah, I've just done a quick Google. He's right on that on the maths there. Yeah, like if you throw the example we've got here is if the vehicle's moving at 60 miles an hour and the object is uh, thrown forwards at 60 miles an hour, it would have a net velocity of 120. Okay, right. My mind is put at ease there. Sorry, I was just wanting that was bugging me as well. So yeah, he's right on that one. Okay, right. Okay, okay.
I don't even want to say it's disingenuous because you kind of have to look into it in order to say like, hey, this probably isn't what it is.
Yeah.
But it's when you look at all the context, Tobirama does not that you don't come away from that feat thinking that that feat anyway is better than the one Hiruzen is performing. And when Sage is talking about the feat, he's the analogy he gave. He's saying that the rod is slower than Jubito. That's just for the sake of the analogy. Realistically, the rod should be faster than Jubito. What Hiruzen gets hit by is the extension of it,
Yeah,
right? So like the rod extends out while Jubito's flying. So it's like really it's like
he's
double the
adding
speed.
the speed. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
hits
yeah,
Hiruzen and
fine.
Hiruzen's able to react to it. It's just
Yeah.
it's just way more impressive when you talk about that. Now, the next thing, and it's probably the biggest thing when it comes to talking about this, what most people would go for, is Tobirama quote unquote scaring EMS Sasuke. Obviously, EMS Sasuke should be stronger than Orochimaru. That like
Oh yeah, he's like, whoa, okay, you're just standing there. Oh, he moves his finger, doesn't he? And it's like, ah,
signing tier, and then Hiruzen should be somewhere in that tier. Not only is it more so that I think that Hiruzen isn't in the signing tier, I think Hiruzen's pretty much like a lot stronger than the signing. I think the only reason he was like around Orochimaru's level when they fought is that he was a mental nerd for most of the fight. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah, he's fighting his student. He's really going to be thrown, and then the other opponents he's fighting as well. It's like trying to comprehend that, like he's fighting his old like companions as well.
then whenever he
Yeah.
decided to actually go all out, he was extremely tired just because of old man stats. If he was 10 years younger, he could have pulled Orochimaru's soul out or whatever. So if he's this 10 year younger, if he's this younger here, is in he can actually defeat Orochimaru here. So like I don't really think Hiruzen is at that signing level. I think he's actually far above. And then when you look at the weekly statement for whenever the Hokage are all going to the battlefield, it says that the strongest soldiers are all on their way there. And it's obviously talking about the four of them. So that would obviously put Hiruzen over EMS Sasuke anyway, so that line of scaling wouldn't even work. That's if you believe in the weekly statements. We obviously don't know where the weekly statements come from. We don't know how canon they are to the actual manga.
They're
It's
all
just,
usually there's weekly bits at the end are meant to just like build up, like excitement for the next one.
backs up Hiruzen not exactly being at that level. And if anything, Edo should be weaker than when you're alive. Tobirama obviously says that Hiruzen was something with the same Edo Tensei. So a lot of what nerfed Hiruzen whenever he was alive, being an old man, having less stamina than he realistically should, and along with the fact that he's fighting his student, and for the majority of the fight he was mentally nerfed until he got better, and by then he was exhausted. Hiruzen just should be stronger than that level. He should be stronger than that signing level. So I don't think that works out too well.
Yeah. Well, and to back that up, like him being stronger than that Sannin level, again, in the fight against Orochimaru, there are data book statements talking about how like they fought evenly for like a long time, and like they're equals and all this stuff. But we see at the end of the fight, after he is like so exhausted that he's literally coughing up blood, like he's so fatigued that he's literally coughing up blood, he then outmaneuvers Orochimaru, like he launches Enma at him. We actually also get to see, like, to back up him not wanting to, kill his student at different parts in the fight. After in one of the points in the fight, he launches Enma at him, and he like stops Enma from like grabbing him with his hand. So like we can see that, right? He's clearly mental nerfed. That's actually something that Virtue pointed out to me, is like he stops Enma from slashing him, which is pretty cool. But in this final encounter, he like launches Enma at him, and then Enma, kind of like clashes with the snakes that Orochimaru sends at it, and Hiruzen is able to like maneuver around and like almost like physically blitz Orochimaru here. Like he gets around him, and then you see Orochimaru react to him, like there's the exclamation point thing, like he sees him, and then Hiruzen's able to grab him and then start performing the Reaper Death Seal. So this is deep into the fight after like a full hour. Oro has not showed any signs of like slowing down or being fatigued. He's actually like making fun of Hiruzen for being fatigued here. And again, Hiruzen is so fatigued that he's coughing up blood. This is like after the Jonin are like, oh my god, he's summoning shadow clones. He's cutting off his life, Like he's like shortening his lifespan because of this. So this version of Hiruzen that is significantly nerfed, not only like mentally but also physically, maybe not mentally by the end of the fight, but definitely physically, is still able to outmaneuver and sort of like best Orochimaru here physically. So that would just lend credence to the idea that he's a good deal above the Sannin level, despite what the data books say about them fighting evenly. So if you're trying to use that line of scaling, for like to say, Sasuke above Orochimaru and therefore above, Hiruzen, and Tobirama scared Sasuke, so he's above Hiruzen, it just doesn't work for a myriad of different reasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, come on, Six.
We good to just move on to Minato then. I think we said,
yeah,
if anything, too much about Hiruzen.
Yeah. I would just add, like, I think that based on the statements that we get about his reputation, you could argue he's like base Hashirama level, because like most people wouldn't know about Sage Hashirama. Like, there's no reason for these reputation statements to apply to that. But if we can get him to base Hashirama level, that just inherently puts him above Tobirama. So, yeah, we can move on to one of the goats.
Yeah. So really, I mean, up here we're talking top four now.
So who's left? Naruto, Hashirama, Kakashi, Minato. Ooh. Is Kakashi next?
I've talked about Minato at length numerous times.
Oh, Minato's next.
I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. I'm going to let Sage ramble on for as much.
But Kakashi as Hokage.
As he wants when it comes to Minato, but I've talked about Minato at length numerous times. I mean, Minato being stronger than Hiruzen.
So they're saying, because obviously Naruto's at the top. Kakashi's got to be next then. I would have put Kakashi. Are we talking about Kakashi as Hokage? Because Kakashi as Hokage doesn't have his Sharingan. Then people say in the novels apparently he's stronger without it because he doesn't get fatigued because he doesn't have it draining it. He has the let's go into this.
Isn't really up for discussion. I mean, there's plenty of statements like Jiraiya saying no one could rival Minato. Everyone pales in comparison
Absolute
to him.
beast.
Minato being the Hokage while Hiruzen was alive, 10 years ago or whatever, where he was supposedly a lot stronger. Actually, it was more than 10 years ago at that point. It had been like 16 years.
Yeah.
But Minato being alive when Hiruzen was alive, the Hokage is supposed to be the strongest person in the village. And there's nothing to really ever go against that. There's nothing ever to really go against the Hokage being the strongest person in the village, unless you get to like maybe Tsunade at some point, and then like Kakashi with Naruto. But for the most part, that's been consistent throughout the entire series up to those people. So it really gets, it's just really easy there. He's like the first person in the ranking where the rankings kind of just clear to me. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what else I'm supposed to say about him.
Yeah, I mean, I think whenever in the power scaling community, obviously, like what it comes down to is, okay, what's their speed, what's their reaction, what's their AP, what's their defense capability, all that stuff. But with him, like his arsenal is so hacks that he kind of just like out hacks his people, and then he has the stats to just like back that up too, you know. So we went over the Tobirama stuff earlier and about why some of these are a bit disingenuous, and like people use those to scale him over Hiruzen and over Minato. But if you guys want to take those feats, like the exploding true secret orb feat, and you want to say no, this is legit, ignore all context. Okay, let's ignore all context for, I don't know, Minato in base without the Nine Tails outspeeding 8th Gate Guy in the 5th step Sekizo, which is the fastest step in the Sekizo technique. Like, if that, he verifiably, if we're just like taking feats that happen and we're not contextualizing them at all, he verifiably has better showings than either Hiruzen or Tobirama, even just in the War Arc. And that's not including, like the unparalleled talent, the, at the end of
the only person to have a flea on sight order.
Part 1, you get that statement where it's like everybody is striving to meet his level. There's just a bunch of different things that lend credence to the idea that he's just above these guys. Whether it be again, him just outspeeding them in terms of the 8th Gate Guy stuff, or him having just better lore. It all kind of ties together to just narratively put him above either of these guys. And then also, KCM2 Naruto is clearly above both Hiruzen and Tobirama, like clearly, because he's able to sort of combat Jubito as the fight goes on. Of course, he's able to combat Jubito mostly by himself. Well, with Sasuke, but he's able to like react to him just fine, like tag him and all of these things. And I personally believe that the KCM2 Naruto stuff, like KCM2 Naruto, Minato being relative to that, does have some level of validity, especially when you consider a lot of the things that people use to go against that. So, for example, people will say like he can't be on that level because A is like below KCM1 Naruto, and that in Book 4 talks about how A has speed not inferior to the Yellow Flash. So what I did is I assembled every single time Minato is called the Yellow Flash to see if it's more likely or less likely that this is talking about Jonin Minato or Hokage Minato. And out of every single time that he is called Jonin Minato, or he's called Yellow Flash, more often than not, it's in reference to his Jonin counterpart. Then when you take into account the fact that this data book statement is put right next to the image of him dodging or him combating Naruto, which is the moment that parallels to him fighting Jonin Minato, this is just not admissible. So that means that Jonin Minato is more so relative to this, A, Fourth Hokage A. And then Hokage Minato just far exceeds that. We see multiple times he's like going on missions, it talks about how his combat ability has been fostered in battle. So we have a character who then later on, Kakashi thinks like, oh my gosh, is that my sensei? Whenever Naruto flies in, knocks away 6 Bijou bombs, and people try to do away with this, but it's like, In order for him to hallucinate that, quote unquote, he would have to think that Minato could do
Is
something similar,
potentially
both in
able to
terms of
do that.
speed
Yeah, there's no way you would like randomly think out of nowhere that somebody that isn't capable of doing something did something that they're not capable of. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
and the deflection itself, which is crazy. So there's just like so much evidence
I'm really intrigued for why Kakashi's above Minato. This is like, wow.
that mounts to point to
And this is where what they'll do is they'll have Hashirama next, and then Kakashi will be after that, and I'll be like, what?
him
Because we're talking about the Hokage versions, aren't we?
being on that KCM2 level. And then the final point that I would like to make here on that is he talks to Naruto and says he has to master the Nine Tails chakra in order to be able to face, the masked man, right? Which means that KCM2, which we know is confirmed by Kurama later on, he says this is what you wanted, Fourth Hokage, whenever he's sharing his chakra with everybody, he's mastered KCM2. KCM2 was the mode that Minato was referring to. So we know KCM2 is above the masked man. We know that Minato is above the masked man, and we know KCM1 wasn't enough to get up there, right? Because Kurama never makes that comment until he gets KCM2. So Minato, by default, has to be somewhere between KCM1 or 1.5 and KCM2. And so I think it's just a consistent line of scaling to get him towards that KCM2 Naruto scaling, which just would inherently put him above everybody else. But I've been yapping for a minute, so I'm gonna let you go, Six. But I just felt like all of those things sort of needed to be hit on because I know people are gonna come after us in the comments.
So I guess the next thing to talk about with Minato then would just be KCM. But it doesn't really change his ranking whatsoever, so it's not that important to include it. But I mean, when you talk about KCM Minato, he spends the majority of the war arc nerfed in some way or another, even when he gets his KCM form. But you talk about KCM Minato at full power. I mean, it's just Minato with a bunch more chakra, and now he can shoot Biju bombs at people. So obviously, it's gonna be Minato in a much more powerful state. It's just he's not stronger than our number 2 or number 3, and definitely not number 1. So just
I mean, we all know Naruto's at the top.
Now, as for number 3, we're going with Hashirama.
No way. No way. No. What's going on? What is going on with this list?
Now, I feel like even though I have Hashirama at number 3, and Sage agrees with me, I'm gonna bring up Kakashi here because I know everyone's like, "Oh my god, Kakashi over Hashirama."
Yeah, what?
We'll get to that. Just know that when we're talking about Kakashi, it's not going to be just manga canon Kakashi. We're talking about anime stuff included, novels as well.
Yeah.
Because if you go off of just the manga, it's just Kakashi without the Sharingan. That guy's not too impressive anyway.
Yeah, so, he's literally not there.
Yeah, he's not there in the Naruto manga.
Still.
So, yeah, but to just go back to Hashirama, there's this one very interesting statement from Hashirama, because I do think that there can be certain bad matchups for people. Right, like if you do want to say Minato could beat Hashirama, it would be off of like a bad matchup, technicality type of thing. But there's this one interesting statement whenever Jubito's doing his rampage, when Hashirama finally shows up, he's like, yeah, I don't even know if I could beat this guy. Like he's sort of claiming the number 1 spot whenever he says something like that. And then Tobirama hears him, they back him up whenever he's saying it. Obviously, Minato's somewhat new to them, with his KCM form and whatnot, but it should still be fine to say he's above, at the bare minimum, base Minato. And when Minato does look at what base Hashirama can do, back when they're all summoned at the Uchiha hideout, he is looking around at like, wow, this guy is pretty incredible. So I don't think it's too much frustration. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with this. I'm pretty much the only one who's ever argued Minato is stronger than Hashirama, like in the past before anyway. But yeah, I think it's pretty fair off of that just to say that Hashirama is stronger than Minato. You can
I would say,
talk about
yeah.
Hashirama in any way you want. I'll pick back up with some more stuff I have to say about him, uh, compared to like some stronger forms of Madara.
Yeah, so the thing about Hashirama is like his if you want a good indicator of how strong this dude is, Kabuto thought that his achievements were mythical. Like he was like, people look at these like fairy tales. Like, his power doesn't seem real to people. And so
I mean, that's quite funny. It's like, there's no way this guy was that strong. That has to be a joke. That's funny.
that goes back to sort of what I was talking about earlier with Hiruzen, where people were like, the things that I'm hearing about Hashirama can't be real. So like this guy's got to be the strongest Hokage ever. Like because this is the only like he's super strong. It's the only reasonable one to go to. So whenever Hashirama shows up in the war, he makes all kinds of crazy statements, like the Jubito one. Also, he looks at Naruto with half of Kurama, and he's like, "Yeah, this guy's got almost as much chakra as I do." Like he's just an absolute dog. So, I mean, I don't think that there should be any argument against him being at this spot. I know some people are probably going to try to argue for him being higher, and we can get into why that's not true here in just a second. But Hashirama
Please.
should firmly be a.
So weird. This list is so weird. Like, this is the weirdest ranking list I think I've seen. But they've got their arguments. They've got the stuff.
Above all of the people below him on this list, and I don't think there should really be any pushback on that.
Yeah, and then when you think about it, right? Obviously, whenever Hashirama and Madara fought in the past, they were somewhat around the same level. You know, he's keeping up with EMS Madara, and he wins that battle in the end. And then when you think about the fact that they both get revived, and Madara's got these amps to his person, you know, along with his Edo nerf, but Hashirama doesn't get that. He's still fighting evenly with that Madara. Um,
Yep.
yeah, I know some people talk about whether or not he gained the deity gates after he fought Madara or not. I personally do think he gained them after he fought Madara, but it doesn't really matter. But you know, now he has them. One of the deity gates even it like seals your will to fight. And you know, he had Madara placed under them. He had the Ten Tails placed under them, and obviously the big thing about that is it tanked the Ten Tails Biju Bomb. Multiple of his deity gates actually tanked the Ten Tails Biju Bomb. So it's extremely impressive being able to do something like that, especially when it's contained inside of a contained inside of a barrier.
Yeah.
So I mean,
No, that's crazy.
Hashirama is just cracked. Everyone knows how strong Hashirama is.
Yeah.
So moving on from him, we have Kakashi. Like I said, this is not just manga Kakashi. This is Kakashi taking into account what he does in the novels, and taking into account what he does in the anime.
Explain it. Explain it now.
The anime makes him really cracked, and I know you're like a big novel fan. So if you want to go over the stuff he does in the novel really quickly, and then
Yeah.
I'll go into the anime stuff afterwards.
Yeah, so essentially, the anime stuff that he's going to get into, I think, sort of verifies these things in the novels. And like he'll definitely get into that here in just a second. But in the novels, he's just a different animal, and like we actually get a direct statement as to how much more powerful he was than he is than he was in the war arc. So whenever he's in Kakashi Retsuden, he like goes to this foreign land and he's trying to find a cure for Naruto's chakra illness and such. But there's a statement that's just kind of like made part of the way through this battle that he's in that says that his chakra has increased by orders of magnitude. And like for those of you who don't know, one order of magnitude in standard is 10 times. Two orders of magnitude in the standard orders
that'd be
that
20.
we talk about mathematically is 100 times. Three
Oh, see. Oh, right.
orders is 1,000 times. So like
So you keep times.
at bare
Right.
minimum, that statement should get his chakra levels to over 100 times what they were in the war.
All right. Okay. But is that just a statement? Because that's a thing that like is constantly argued about in power scaling, and that's like just because some guy throws out a statement doesn't make it fact. But okay.
Which is just insane because we talked about on the video that Six and I did on my channel about like how his stamina kind of increased to a drastic degree during the war arc. He's able to spit out like 5 Kamuis and 8 Raikyuris and all this stuff before receiving additional chakra. So then you multiply that by 100, and that leads him to be able to erect a mud wall around an entire village essentially and keep it up for like 36 hours. And he's not only just like sustaining this thing, They're also like firing cannonballs, like chakra cannons and things, at this wall. There's somebody who's attacking it with like an off-brand, a Timu Chidori, but he's able to change the property of the wall to quartz in order to dispel the electricity. So what would naturally be weak to lightning style and earth style is now strong against it. So like he's doing all this crazy stuff. And that's before he goes on to face the prime minister, who has this tool called the Suigu that is able to shoot out enough water to flood an entire country. And this water is made from Six Paths chakra because it's a Six Paths tool that he's using. Kakashi counters this water attack with a fire attack called his fire style water mist jutsu, despite the fact that he has an elemental disadvantage and that the water is made of Six Paths chakra. So you take all that into account. You take into account the fact that he's able to perception blitz this woman named Kaio, who was able to essentially perception blitz A when they were sparring. Now, you may say, though, that they're sparring and they're not going serious. A threw a lariat in that sparring match, and this is in the Kakashi Hiden novel. So, like, A is like known to just go above and beyond and like go way too far. So even if you say like he's not going 100%, him being a perception blitz tier above this woman who like blitzes him and freezes his beard is super impressive. So Kakashi has a clear jump in power, not only in the 100x minimum chakra boost, but also just like his overall combat ability and speed and things like that. So he's super impressive, and I think that alone gets him to some crazy levels. But then you add in the anime stuff, and you have a whole different beast. You want to go over that?
Yeah, to just to add on to that novel thing really quickly, the Raikage, if I remember correctly in the novel, is stated to be either at half power or not below half power whenever he fights Kaido.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, Kakashi being a perception blitz tier above that would definitely just mean he's faster than the Raikage.
Yeah.
But yeah, to go over the anime stuff, it's really just one thing in particular, and that's his fight with Kashin Koji. Not only does Kakashi box with Kashin Koji, Koji ends up having to sub out a shadow clone in order to do, or in order to get out of the way of Kakashi's purple lightning. Koji like
Oh, Boruto.
went from like Koji like the statement
Yeah.
he says.
I keep forgetting that we're using Boruto stuff in this as well. Like, wow.
I don't remember the statement word for word, but he basically implies like, yeah, I can't really beat you, so I'm gonna get out of here. And Koji, you can take the Koji thing a few different ways, some controversial, some not. I think the least controversial way to take it is just simply saying Koji is Otsutsuki level
I would say that he's definitely up there. He's definitely up there.
because he's a member of Kara, and which Sasuke is like, hey, these people in Kara, there's people out there in Kara who have
Otsutsuki level of power,
powers,
yeah.
and they're like a real threat. That's the least controversial way to take it. Which obviously, I mean, that should just be stronger than Hashirama. He has no type of Otsutsuki level scaling whatsoever. The more like edgy way you could take it would be saying, okay, well, Koji was confident in the fact that he could take down Delta, which I really hate saying things like that, because just
Yeah.
being confident you could take somebody down, it doesn't really matter. Like Kabuto was confident he could beat Itachi. He was confident he's I'm the closest thing to Sage of Six Path. He wasn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can't. Statements are.
But I mean, like,
Yeah.
he's confident he could take Delta
Why is it okay to use statements in this?
down. And Delta's able to swap hands with Naruto. I won't get into whether or not Naruto's going all out on Delta. Don't really care. Delta's swapping hands with Naruto, and at the bare minimum, he's stronger than his base form there. And then in the manga, we see that base Naruto, or it's even in the anime too, like he can somewhat keep up with Fuse Momoshiki. Which would mean that Kakashi would be obviously over that level. Now, like I said, that's far more edgy than I'm willing to go for. I think the other way of just saying Kakashi's above a certain Otsutsuki level is enough to get him in this number 2 spot. Obviously,
Yeah.
not above Naruto, but I mean, yeah, that's a way you can take it.
Yeah. Well, there is one more thing in the anime that I think is worth noting, because whenever I have talked about Hokage Kakashi being above Hashirama, one of the common rebuttals I get is like, well, how can he even harm him? Like, what does he have? Well, his purple electricity is able to cut through one of the tails of Nue, and Nue is literally made of Hashirama cells, and
Oh, I was gonna say like Hashirama uses wood. Can lightning?
it
Mm.
like just slices through it like butter. So, I mean, if we have Kakashi being able to react to these Otsutsuki level opponents and, these people that are able to also react to people like a weakened 10% Jigen, like that's just so far above Hashirama's speed caliber that it's not even fair. So he unironically could just like blitz him with the Shinden and cut him in half, and there's not really anything that he can do. Like I know a lot of people don't like the power cliffing in Boruto, and I understand, but it's just the reality of the situation we're in.
It's true. It's true. I do get as much as I am a bit like about this list. When you throw Boruto into it does kind of flip it, doesn't it? Because the power creeping thing that happens as Boruto progresses, obviously the villains within the show are stronger than the villains within the original. Well, in Shippuden, so obviously the characters need to be stronger than they were to fight said stronger villains. So if we're throwing Boruto in the mix, I'm gonna have to agree. Yeah, fine. Kakashi is probably stronger than Hashirama, but it's still a bit weird saying it.
So Kakashi realistically should just be a complete, a combat tier above what Hashirama can do, despite how impressive he might be.
Yeah, and then I don't really have anything else to say about Kakashi. I think it's
Yeah,
fine based on everything being said that he's in the number two spot. Number one is Naruto. I don't.
yeah.
I doubt this
Can't
list
argue
makes
with
it to
that.
number one. He's the
Why would anyone
strongest.
want to argue with it? You can't argue with it. That's it. It's that.
Hokage. He surpassed all the previous Hokage. That was stated even back in the war arc. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't even know what to
What
say.
to say?
You could make an argument that like current nerfed Naruto is still the strongest. Like
Yeah.
that's how big the gap is. Because like
Mm.
base Naruto is able to react to and block attacks from fused Momoshiki, who's like in his base form potentially like a Kaguya level threat. So it's like you remove the QB from that. Maybe you say you lose a little bit of those physical abilities, but his reaction speed in base should still be basically the same. So like as somebody who's a fused Momoshiki level combat, like low relativity to fused Momoshiki, with 50% of his chakra drained, by the way, that's just crazy. Like Naruto's still a different animal, even without Kurama. So
Yeah. That's pretty much it for the video. But obviously, I would appreciate it if everyone went and subscribed to Sage. I hit my subscriber goal. I'm good for the year. Give all the subs to Sage. He
thank you,
deserves
man.
it. He's the best upcoming Naruto YouTuber. And that's all I have to say. Do you have anything to say?
No, my God, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for saying that, and thank you guys for making it all the way to the end. It means a lot to us, and if you guys have any retorts to this perfect list, make sure to let us know.
Perfect
No,
list.
I don't want to hear any retorts. I don't want to hear any. If you have retorts, that means you weren't paying attention.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's fine.
goodbye.
Fair. Like it threw me from the beginning with Shikamaru being on the list. I was like, what? And then it's like, we're throwing in Boruto, and then I'm forgetting that we're throwing in Boruto as we're doing the list. So, yeah, that Kakashi bit that really threw me as well. But yeah, they're right. They are right. If you take any character apart from Shikamaru into account from Boruto, um, yeah, they're stronger. They are stronger. Like they have to be to fight the stronger opponents that we had than in Shippuden. That whole list was something else, but yeah, even doing a Google search to check out whether the guy's approach to the mathematics for moving object, and I was like, he's right. Like I'll admit when I'm wrong. I like questioning stuff. I don't like just nodding and agreeing when I'm doing these, but yeah, at the end of it, I still feel a bit not dirty about it, but yeah, kind of agree with the list. Just weird. Anyway, thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video and want to be able to watch Patreon only reactions to the original Dragon Ball series, Links in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is all I ask to help support the channel. It is greatly appreciated. Thank you for that. And if you want to see my videos early, click that join button down below and become a member today. So what did you guys think of that? What did you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. And I will see you guys. Yes, all you guys. Next time. That was weird. That was really weird. I made the joke about Kakashi being higher than Hashirama, and then it happened. And it's just like, what? But anyway,